Welcome back to Romantasy Chaos HQ, the pod. We are Avery and Xavier Harleston, healthcare professionals by day, romantasy theorists, and aspiring authors by night. Today, we are covering the epigraph from Fourth Wing, Chapter 24. This is your warning. There will be spoilers for the entire Empyrean series. If you have not read all three books, it may be time to turn back. We are not rated E for everyone. Xavier has a degree in cussing, and he's not afraid to use it. We will discuss any and all adult topics covered in these books. We like a challenge, so we tackle each epigraph without prepping, placing it into context for the whole series, not just the chapter or book it's tied to. But you don't have to take it cold, so here is our post-recording one-sentence summary of the chapter. Wing Leader Xaden is done with Violet using oranges to defend herself, so he takes over her training, supplying her with custom-made daggers and a writing assessment, along with some interesting conversations with General Sorengale and Colonel Atos about loyalties and feathertails. There are 6 minutes on the clock and Fourth Wing lore that even Xaden would find disarming, so don't blink, don't scroll, don't let Terran distract you. We have 360 seconds to blow your minds.
And go.
I know you don't want to hear this, but sometimes you have to know when to take the death blow, Mira. It's why you have to be sure that Violet enters the scribe quadrant. She'll never be able to take a life. Page 70, the Book of Brennan. Okay, so are you telling me that at some point when Brennan was alive, there was discussion about Violet not entering the scribe quadrant? And Brennan was tasking Mira with making sure Violet entered the scribe quadrant because it was up for debate?
Well, I mean, I think, even before she was born, Lilith Sorengale was like, yes, another rider. I am growing a rider. We are a rider family. We all ride.
Yes, but I thought it was not, honestly, it wasn't not until I was typed up this to read just now that I realized that that implied that at some point someone was planning that it was a possibility for Violet to go into something other than the scribe quadrant, even though she literally had been trained since birth to go into the scribes by Asher. And do we when do we think, so it seems like to Violet, we learn at the beginning of the book that like it was only after Asher died that Lilith decided Violet needed to go into the scribe quadrant. But apparently this was discussed well before that, because this is before Mira even enters the quadrant that Brennan is writing the Book of Brennan. So there had to be these discussions. And were the discussions being had because even at that time, they were aware of something sketchy happening in the scribe quadrants and aware that it would potentially be a threat to Violet to go into scribes.
Well, and also interestingly, he does not say she should not become a rider because she's small or she's weak or I don't think she can survive the quadrant. He says, I don't think she can be a rider because she can't kill. So she can't be a writer because she has too much humanity. And this concept of, the mind of a scribe and the heart of a writer, we've really been thinking, in terms of her intelligence, but what if it's her humanity and her approach to how to handle things at a, I guess, intellectual level, but, not, the ability to memorize all these texts, but actually her approach to life that is just so much not a writer, and we're distracted by her physical differences from the other riders as the reason that people were trying to keep her out of the riders quadrant. But this really harkens to a character quality that is generally considered good, like, not going to take the killing blow, going to show mercy, going to have, some plan other than just destroy. And yeah, that sounds like a weakness for a rider, and I get where Brennan's coming from. But yeah, it sounds like at some point they were like, the plan is for her to become a rider, and then it shifted to scribe, and Brennan saying, like, really, now that I've been through this, she really needs to be a scribe. But that, why does a scribe need to be dedicated to Doom? A weak child that's going into the writer's quadrant needs all the help they can get, but a scribe doesn't have to be strong. Like, why does a scribe need Dune? So yeah, 100%. I think this indicates that at some point the family was planning on her being a writer and then switched to scribe.
Well, and Brennan obviously, you know, so Violet was partially dedicated to Dune when she was 2, which would have made Mira like 7 or 8, and Brennan into his teens, right? Because there's like 5 or 6 years between each of them. And um, so he obviously was very aware of why, like, whether we don't know to the extent to which this ended up being discussed. Clearly, I don't think it was discussed before because Lilith had no idea. But afterwards, we don't know the extent to which this was discussed. But he would have been home. He would have been around. He would have been old enough to be part of these discussions and like why that choice was made. And what does he know that he's not telling us? Because they both had to have known that her hair was the way it was because she was partially dedicated.
Well, and
And neither of them said
and
anything.
he's old enough to know that something went down with the family during the
I mean,
dedication, and now they're no longer visiting their grandparents, and there was a fallout. And so, I mean, he definitely got more family information than he's letting on. And book 4 prediction, yes, more family information because it's all sus, and I want it sussed out.
well, and the other thing that's interesting is there are 2 other quadrants. Why did she have to go into scribes? She could have gone into healers or infantry, or not everyone goes into the military. How come that was not discussed? Like, I get if both of your parents are military that maybe there is some assumption, I guess, that she would go into the military. But like, look, at this point in time, she was too young. If we do the math, when Mira was entering the quadrant, Violet was too young to have been dating Holden. But let's say she had continued dating Holden and things got serious and she, oh,
Oh, it's our time.
what if she became Princess Kate? Is my question. What I was getting at.
We'll circle back to
All
that
right.
someplace. Instagram, Patreon, who knows?
All right. Did we blow your mind? Let us know in the comments. And remember, we love you. Stay out of the clouds, off the ice, and come back to us. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Remember, lore lovers, fantasy fanatics, and good girls, like, rate, review, subscribe, and share.